Yeah, I wanted to do a video about Stickam, and I wanted to preface the video in um, with with my kind of humbling approach. I come across on YouTube as a bit of a provocateur, and I have my experiences. I'm not incredibly educated in religious texts. I'm limited to the philosophers that I've read, and the people that I've interacted with, and then my own generative thoughts on matters. Um, but I go to Stickam and I go into Debate Faith periodically, and Debate Faith is run by a guy. I don't know his real name. It's not really important to me to know his real name, but he goes by Atheist at Large, and he runs this room. And essentially, the room functions as a rail job against people who are already kind of naive in their religious convictions. They've kind of maybe they haven't experienced or gone into depth as far as the roots of words, roots of the text that define whole religious cultures, and so as an example, Zeitgeist. I did a video on defending Zeitgeist to some extent, and the whole idea. What I'm getting at here is that the biblical texts, religious texts, they are descriptive of lands. They're descriptive of people's perception, how it is they'd like to convey knowledge of the origin of things, where they think things came from. First of all, it's origin of ages, where they understood their people to come from different lands and different sources, and it's a history of people with different lords above them. It's also stories about seasons. It's also religious texts are also stories about how to eat, how to survive, who warred against who, the basically methodologies of living. And a lot of the texts purport oding or praying to existence itself, just the fact of being alive. And so you go into Stickam and you go into this room, Debate Faith, and it's a rail job. It's at best a 101 class in how to abandon your naive stances, your inherited religious vision on things, and it's very successful. So Atheist at Large functions at best a 101, maybe a 201 in certain classes on what it means to be logical in the modern way of discussing logic or rationality, or what it is to be reasonable. But for the most part, it's a hazing ritual. It's like a frat house, and he's going to put you through an ill-tempered, very accented, very hypocritical sort of you shut up, like he'll put everything out civilly, like now everyone raise your hands when you'd like to speak because we don't really understand the other person's tempo. So raise your hands like a good classroom, and then you speak, and then he'll moderate, and he'll tell certain people to shut up to allow other people to speak. And then if you speak over him, he'll get very upset. But he will gladly come in with a hazing technique and speak right over you and make certain his volume is heavy and heavy-handed. And so what I'm finding in debate faith is not an exploration of religious texts, not an exploration of methodologies, not an explanation of myth, histories, or origins, but basically just kind of a categorical barking of what is not the case, what a lot of religious people a lot of religious people approach the texts of their lives as a history or as a methodology, something to follow or cling to in order to give them an insight in how to go about their day-to-day lives, and to also give them insight into how other cultures, in a historical sense, survived or got along or perceived the world in kind of an empathetic hermeneutic approach. And yet, all atheists at large can do seems to be is bash people and throw out the word reasonable and logical quite a bit, and to try to reduce everything to the modern rationality of how things work and put the things that are no longer applicable into the framework of myth. And rightly so in some cases. The acceptance of certain trends applied today are not very they're not very applicable now, and I think that what one walks away with is kind of a I just feel like I'm walking into a 201 class and I have some guy there trying to initiate a group enema, and where my digestive tract is working just fine. And granted, I can always change the channel, and I do, or I instigate as a provocateur something that might get me kicked out of the room. But just note when you're in there, note the volume, note the process, note the hypocrisy of who's dominating what and who's lording over the room because they started the room. And then note the cyclic behavior of the argumentation. Then note the limit of that argumentation. And then also note that etymology and textual interpretation and reinterpretation is not gone over to any degree of scrutiny, more than likely because there are large fluxes of people coming in and putting themselves up. And then notice the level of education. You'll get a broad mix there as well. Anyway, this is just kind of a description on my part. It's not really to be a bitch and moan. It's more or less a wake up people and note the limits of what certain Stickam personalities